Shalom and welcome to the Middle East Report. In this program today, we shall be discussing what it's like to be a Jewish student on campus in the UK, and also what we can do to help bring the Israeli hostages home from their captivity in Gaza. Well, welcome to the programme, and I have two very special guests joining me today on the Middle East Report. They are Jonathan Gross, a Jewish student in London, together with Josh Nestel, originally from Belgium and also originally from Gibraltar, which is a British colony, which is great. So, guys, warm welcome to the programme, and I just want to thank you both for being here today to show bravery and to courage to stand up for Israel, to stand up for your communities, and also share with us what it's like to be a student on campus at the current time, post-October the 7th, but also the important work that you guys are doing in terms of bringing awareness to the plight of the hostages that are still held by Hamas in Gaza. Jonathan, I'll start off with you. Just share a little bit about your Jewish background, living in Gibraltar. What's it like to be Jewish in Gibraltar, and share something about your childhood.
Yes. Firstly, thank you, Simon, for hosting us today. It is a beautiful opportunity for us young students to have this platform to voice our very strong hope that we have in Israel, in the hostages' return. And for that, I would like to express and extend my gratitude to our evangelical team for the unwavering support that they've had throughout day one, I would say, and especially in these troubling, trying days. Support does not go unnoticed, and for that, on behalf of the Jewish people, we are forever grateful.
Oh, no, it's great. And also I've got my Jewish friends to thank for you being here today. And yeah, Josh, it's great to see you. I know that you're from Antwerp in Belgium. I know Belgium very well, having worked there so much in the European Parliament, doing a programme there. So I know the challenges facing the Jewish community in Brussels in particular, and that Belgium is a very tough country to be Jewish. But do you want to share with us your background, what's like growing up in Antwerp?
Yes, like Jonathan said, thank you again for letting us host and voice our opinions here. Growing up in Belgium, I grew up in Antwerp, which has a massive Jewish community. I grew up in a bubble where we were very safe, we were protected from anti-Semitism and all that stuff. So that was very nice. Once we left that bubble though, we had to be careful the way we'd express ourselves, the way what we were wearing. We wouldn't be able to wear a kippah, which is traditionally what we do. And to say yes, there was danger when we went outside the bubble, and there was a lot of anti-Semitism, but I think a lot of Jews can relate to this, we know how to deal with it, and yes.
Yeah, so you shouldn't have to deal with it. Shouldn't have to live with it. And Jonathan, just talk to us about Gibraltar. What was it like growing up in Gibraltar? What's it like being Jewish in Gibraltar, and the kind of British enclave that is Gibraltar?
For sure. Gibraltar, defined as a British overseas territory, located at the southern tip of the Iberian Peninsula. It's home to some 32,000 people, and with about a 1,000 Jewish population. So proportionally, I think that's significantly high. I think close to Israel, in fact. And I think one thing about Gibraltar in which we charm ourselves, quite a unique aspect of Gibraltar, is the sense of belonging, the sense of community, the sense of unity. Gibraltar, the Muslim, the Christian, the Catholic, the Moroccan, the Jew, we all feel alike, we're all one family. And I think prior to October 7th, there's been a very strong sense of that family and that unity and that harmony across the beautiful rock, I think we like to pride ourselves about.
Excellent. Share with us your experience, Josh, of being here in the UK and studying here. How does it compare to Belgium?
Obviously, where I grew up, Antwerp was a very small city, so to move to London was a massive experience. London is a massive city compared to Antwerp, so I had to adapt to that. But yes, here in London also you have to be more careful with the way you portray yourself out there, especially on campus. Being a student in base business school, I haven't had so much trouble with anti-Semitism, but it's definitely around. Most of the people I surround myself with know that I'm Jewish, but I've had people know that I'm Jewish, or I've told people that I'm Jewish, and the expression or the way they looked at me afterwards was kind of disgust, which is kind of like, I don't know, I think we should be ahead of that. I think we should move forward from that. And, well, yeah, so.
No, cool. And yeah, Jonathan, just share with us what you and Josh are doing, because you've taken upon yourselves really to raise awareness of the plight of the hostages in Gaza after the horrific events of October the 7th. Right. So just share with us what you are doing, and particularly the importance of the bring them home kind of dog tags. I'm wearing one. You guys have got merchandise where you are raising awareness, but also raising finances to help the families of the missing hostages.
So today, Simon, marks 158 days since October 7th. I think we should put to our viewers, put that in context. What does that mean? That is 5 months, 1 week, and 1 day. Now, Josh and I, we met a few months ago, and post October 7th, it was all we could talk about. It was everything we could think. It was the hostages was at the heart of every conversation. And we felt that as students based in London, we didn't have the opportunity to physically contribute and help our brothers and sisters in Israel. So with our entrepreneurial like-minded, we said, how can we raise money? How can we raise awareness? And let's do what we can for Israel. And we embarked on this journey together, a charitable cause, Am Yisrael Chai 71023. And as you can see that I have over here, it's a dog tag. Over here it says Beyachad Nenaseach with a Star of David, and behind Halev Shelanu Shavui Be'aza, bring them home now. Our hearts are still captured in Gaza. And I think that is something that needs to be at the forefront of every human, not just Jewish, of every human, to understand that there's 134 innocent civilians in Gaza held captive in terror tunnels. And I think that should bother everyone, irrespective of your political beliefs. And that's why Josh and I, we're not here for raising any political understanding. We're here to raise one message, and it's very clear. Support the hostages, bring them home now.
Yeah, amen. I can completely concur to that. And Josh, just unpack for us how difficult it is now, particularly as the world seems to have forgotten what happened on October the 7th. The media's moved on. We don't hear too much about the plight of the hostages anymore. Certainly when we hear, whether it's President Biden or David Cameron, or our own government talking about needing a ceasefire to stop Israel's military operations near the Rafah crossing, there's no discussion or mention of the hostages. So share with us what those hostages must be going through right now in Hamas's terror tunnels, and how we've got to keep their memory alive, we've got to keep praying for them, and we've got to keep putting pressure on our government and our media to put pressure on Hamas so that they are released. Well,
yeah, of course. It's very tricky to spread awareness, and that's why me and Jonathan embarked on this journey to try and sell as many as we can to this, to have people wear these and remember what is going on. You know, when you're wearing something that's on you all the time, it's easier to remember an event like October the 7th. And I can't even imagine what those hostages are feeling right now. Not even seeing their families for 5 months, and the families as well, not seeing their children in 5 months. And not only that, let's play hypothetical, right? Imagine your child gets taken away from someone who is not scared to decapitate children, to go out there and slaughter innocent women. Absolutely the most disgusting acts of evil that have been betrayed by them. Imagine your child has been taken away by that type of person and then held captive. That is something I don't think any of us can understand and don't know how to act upon. But the best thing I think me and Jonathan can do is spread, as I said, and as Jonathan has said, spread awareness and try to remember what's going on and try to portray love and do acts of good around the world.
Yeah, wonderful, so important. So let's have a look now, this excellent CBN news report, and this is one of the hostages who was released around Christmas time, who's of Filipino origin, and this is his harrowing story of what he suffered at the hands of Hamas.
On October 7th, the day Hamas terrorists began their attacks along the Gaza border, Jimmy Pacheco was taken hostage.
No, when I was taken out of the house, I didn't expect them to spare me because I witnessed my employer being killed mercilessly.
Jimmy lived in a kibbutz where he was a caregiver to an elderly man who was immediately killed by Hamas. In an exclusive interview, Jimmy talked about his harrowing experience.
I heard gunfire from another house, and I sent a message to my wife back in the Philippines to take care of our children. Hamas asked me if I am a soldier. They set a rifle on automatic and fired beside my ear until the ammo ran out. After that, I heard a buzzing sound in my ears. When our supplies were scarce, they only gave us one pita bread for the whole day. But I didn't eat it in one sitting. I just got a pinch whenever I felt hungry. As time passed, the water supply became salty. I worried because I had a history of kidney illness. When I needed to defecate, they gave me a piece of toilet paper. I didn't use it. I hid it in my pocket so I could eat it. For me, it was food. I would take the toilet paper and dab it on the moist walls. We were about 40 meters below the ground, so it was cold and there was condensation on the walls. When the paper got wet enough, I ate it. It filled my empty stomach as well as quenched my thirst. They also made me clean 7 toilets. I was okay with that because if I did not do it, the smell would get worse. During the first and second weeks, I stayed inside a small prison with a toilet right beside me. I kept thinking and wondering, why would they capture me? It was driving me crazy. Why would they capture me if I didn't do anything to them? I got my strength from my children. I had the strength to eat toilet paper because I needed to survive for my children. I pleaded to God because I was 12 years old when my father died. I prayed, please don't do this to me. Please let me live. Even if I stay here for 10 years, just let me live.
After roughly a month and a half in captivity, Jimmy was included in the first batch of hostages released by Hamas.
They told us we would be leaving the tunnel where we were held captive. That's when I started to cry. When I first saw the sun and came out from the tunnel, I just knelt down and thanked the Lord because I saw the sun again and breathed fresh air. My strength came from the Lord and for my children. Now I am more mature and stronger in many respects. I want to stay here and keep working, even after what they did to me. I want to provide for my family because I do not want my children to experience the hardships that I experienced when I was a child. And I would like to thank you all for your prayers.
Absolutely harrowing story there, but it's important to know it's just not Israeli Jews that are being captured and kidnapped by Hamas as well, as we saw that incredible story of a Filipino who's been living and working in Israel, has been caught and captured by Hamas back on October the 7th. Josh, we'll come back to the topic of the plight of the hostages, but share with us what it's like to be a Jewish student on campus, because ever since October the 7th, we've seen literally Jew hatred rise to record levels. Never before in this country have we seen Jew hatred so high. So share with us what it's like at your university and the university that you're attending.
Right. Levels of anti-Semitism have risen across the world, US, UK campuses. My university, Queen Mary, they recently hosted Muazzam Beg, an individual who on the 8th of October had come out and tweeted across all his media platforms saying that Palestine, Hamas have an inalienable right to defend themselves with any means necessary. We're talking about a university who hosted a terrorist sympathizer, who hosted someone that denied the claims of women being raped. So I think under such grounds, how can Jews really feel so safe?
So Josh, share with us your experiences of being a Jewish student on campus and what you've personally experienced, particularly as we know that we've seen this massive rise of Jew hatred since October the 7th.
Well, yes. Personally, I try to surround myself with people that don't hate me for what I believe and what I stand up for. So most of the people on campus, or most of my friends that I consider friends, know that I'm Jewish and they don't have a problem with that. Now, have I had bad encounters? Yes. I've told people I'm Jewish and they've looked at me different. They don't want to talk to me anymore. And I try to ignore that as much as I can. Also, the pro-Palestinian stands and all that stuff, I let them do their stuff. I just walk by and I don't try to make it a big deal. Yeah.
Jonathan, share with us where you were on October the 7th, because everything has changed really since October the 7th. It's a different Israel after October the 7th. The Jewish community now are asking some very difficult questions. Do they have a future here in the United Kingdom? Do they have a future in Europe? We've seen like Jew hatred, literally levels of Jew hatred go off the scale in terms of reported instances of anti-Semitism. So share with us where you were on October the 7th and how did you first discover the horrors that were taking place on that day known as Black Saturday?
Yes, October 7th, the day terror raped humanity. One of the darkest days in history, one of the darkest days in Jewish history, in humanity, really. I was in Jerusalem on October 7th. And let's put some context. It was a Shabbat day, which is the Sabbath, and it was also a high holiday, Simchat Torah, which means the joy of the Torah. So it was a very, very special day, and it was a day that I had woken up to rockets and missiles being thrown over my home, and it was a day in which humanity is no longer the same. And how did I find out? It was actually a neighboring reservist in the building that came in and checked in on us and had informed us of all the horrors that he had just come off a phone call from his army base, calling all the thousands of people over back to the bases. What I find quite incredible with Israel is that on October the 8th, we were a people never united before. And prior to October 7th, we were a country deeply divided. And it's what I see very interesting about the Jewish people. We are strongest and we are united at our greatest when our enemies are against us.
So true. And Josh, share with us where you were on October the 7th and when did you first learn about the horrors that took place? I mean, 1,200 Israelis and other foreign nationals murdered in cold blood by Hamas. We had over 6,000 casualties, many of them critical, plus over 250 taken hostage back to that hellhole that is Gaza.
Yes. Personally, I don't really look at the news, to be honest. I try to stay away from it. There's a lot of fake news out there, and I don't try to, put stuff in my mind that's not true. So I didn't know about the attack until the day after. One of my friends that works in the government came back home, and we live in an accommodation, so we all live together, and he tells me, yeah, horrible day today, and I asked him how so, and he tells me the attacks. And I didn't know about anything. I was like, what happened? And he tells me about the horrific incident, and it really blew me away. I don't think anyone knew how to act, and there was obviously no right reaction. So yes, that's my memory of that situation, and I hope to never experience something like that again.
And Jonathan, tell us the impact October the 7th has had on you as a Jewish student on campus. And we've already discussed through the program already the rise of Jew hatred on campus. But share with us what it's like to be Jewish. Do you take precautions? Do you hide your Jewish identity? And how do you feel about being Jewish on campus?
Right. I think, like you said earlier, how does the future of the Jewish people feel in UK? How do you feel post-October 7th on campus? I think something about the Jewish people is we are not new to such circumstances. We are people that have witnessed this in history before, and to question the future is to question our past. To look at the future is to look behind and see we are people that have been persecuted. We are people that have survived wars and exiles. But I'd like to say we're not just surviving, we're thriving. Jewish population marks 0.2% globally. But I like to call ourselves a small dog with a loud bark. And we're not going anywhere, and we're here to stay, and we're here to grow. And we call ourselves a beacon of light across the nations. And yes, today we are witnessing a time of darkness, but this is when we shine greatest.
Absolutely. So let's have a look now, this excellent CBN news report that looks at the rise of Jew hatred on campus and how many Jewish students, particularly in the United States, but also very reflective here in the UK, feel under pressure for being Jewish.
After the horrific Hamas attack on Israel, students at the University of Wisconsin-Madison chanted, "Glory to the martyrs."
Glory to the martyrs!
Cornell University professor Russell Rickford called the Hamas killings exhilarating.
It was exhilarating, it was energizing.
And an instructor at Stanford has been suspended for allegedly making Jewish students stand in a corner while publicly referring to them as colonizers. Many colleges and universities have allowed and even promoted pro-Hamas, anti-Jewish hatred for decades. The attack on Israel has shown just where that policy has led. Dr. Zachary Marshall is editor-in-chief at Campus Reform.
What we're seeing this week on college campuses is a culmination of 2 generations of activist scholars using college classrooms to create indoctrination camps where they use leftist ideology and anti-Israel critiques and work as a mask to perpetuate anti-Semitism.
The anti-Israel BDS movement, which stands for Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions, has been allowed to flourish on campuses nationwide and uses the chant "From the river to the sea" in their protest, calling for the destruction of Israel.
From the river to the sea!
After the Hamas attack on Israel, the BDS movement's website posted and later deleted that it supported the slaughter of Israelis by Hamas, calling it heroic and justified.
And not only is it a moral failing and an intellectual failing and just a scandal, but it's a strategic threat to the American Republic.
Dexter Van Zyl of Middle East Forum says the Hamas terror attack finally exposed the BDS movement for what it's really about, the destruction of the State of Israel.
It's been a long time coming, and the October 7th attack exposed it.
We support the Intifada!
The major campus group behind the BDS movement is Students for Justice in Palestine. After the Hamas attack, Boston University's SJP chapter posted that victory is ours. Universities like Harvard have been embarrassed and lost donations because of pro-Hamas support. It's gotten so bad that Ezekiel Emanuel, longtime Democrat and brother of Rahm Emanuel, wrote an editorial in Wednesday's New York Times entitled "The Moral Deficiencies of a Liberal Education."
It's terrifying and sad that it took the death of over 1,000 Jews in Israel to direct people to the totalitarian forces that are now running amok on college campuses in the United States. But that's what it took.
Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Excellent report there by our friends at CBN, really showing what life is like on university campuses, particularly in the United States, but I think we can also compare that to the UK and also Europe as well. Josh, just university campuses, and if I take my time back when I was at University in Manchester back in the 90s, university is a kind of unique time where you are kind of learning. You're learning about life, you're learning about academia, you're learning about the importance of freedom of expression and academic freedom of expression. And this is where, for example, you guys, your young minds are kind of developing into what careers that you want to go into, your field of interest and stuff as well. But it must have an impact on you being Jewish, knowing that you are, well, maybe your university, but certainly a lot of universities in the UK, it's so full of hate towards the Jewish people that it must affect your ability to learn. knowing that you also have to just look out for yourself and your fellow Jewish friends, particularly in this climate of Jew hatred that we're seeing, and some really nasty anti-Jewish stuff on campus?
Well, yeah, of course it's tricky. It's not easy. It's a hard situation, especially growing up having the same thing, that hatred for no reason. I have never done anything I try my best not to hurt anyone or do anything bad in this world, and then for me to be hated just because of what I stand for, what I'm being born into, and what I believe in, is obviously effective. Like it hurts, but I feel like, and I think a lot of Jews can relate to this, we are used to this, and we do know how to react to it. And I think we all have our different reactions, and we all have different ways of dealing with the situations. Personally, I try to just ignore it. I try to neglect my mind from that, and I try to think, let me just surround myself with people that accept me for who I am. Let me surround myself with good people and not with hatred. And that's just how I deal with that. And I think Jonathan can relate in that scenario as well.
Yeah, for sure. Whilst I do agree with you, I think, personally on my campus at least, I think, to quote Dr. Martin Luther King, there comes a time when silence is betrayal. And I think it's very clear where the world stands. Post-October 7, the levels of anti-Semitism that are being witnessed, and I think anti-Semitism has in fact been unmasked, because if one is silent to such atrocities that are going on, to the levels of savagery and barbarism unparalleled since the Nazi genocide, then such silence in today's day and age, when we're like to believe our phones are our greatest weapon, then silence on campus is troubling if that's the case.
Yeah, Joshua, I've done quite a few. Jonathan as well. I've done a number of programs looking at academic freedom of expression, looking at the Jew hatred on campus across our universities in this country and also abroad as well. And they've even had kind of personal accounts of, the Israeli societies putting on an event, having a pro-Israel speaker to come in, and the kind of violence and intimidation that they felt, or whether it's an Israeli diplomat that has come to address the Israeli society and find themselves needing police protection. So just share with us what it's like for, say, JSOC, the Jewish Union, or any Israeli societies on campus right now, particularly post-October the 7th, in this climate of hate that we're seeing.
Yes. So I think the JSOCs, the Jewish societies, have been very supportive. We've listened to all of our Jewish subtle remarks. I think all students personally have some anti-Semitism remarks. And like I said earlier, in regards to silence, I think our university has taken quite a strong stance in respecting the different societies. However, that being said, across the societies at Queen Mary, they all do hold very strong pro-Palestinian views, and to the expense of not supporting Israel and not supporting JSOC.
And just share with us the challenge, Josh, on social media, particularly for your generation, whereby we see this hatred against Israel, against the Jewish community, all because you're Jewish and all because Israel is the only Jewish state in the world. There is no other Jewish state. So share with us what it's like when you see your own peer group believing all these lies and propaganda about Israel.
Well, yeah, that's a big problem with social media, obviously. We're not with many, Jews are not with many, so we can't, when we put our stuff out there, it's overlapped by the thousands and thousands of millions of videos that have been created by Muslims, which are set to, I think, change the opinion or misconduct the real information that is actually happening. So let's say, especially on TikTok, I feel like a lot of people get brainwashed. And that's why also, again, like I said before, I try to not watch the news, I try to stay off social media and watch interesting things that don't conduct hatred or any of that type of stuff. And when you do that, I feel like you're in a better mindset, you feel better. Because if you surround yourself with hatred, you're going to feel like you're hated. And that's what I try to avoid, and that's why I don't feel like I'm hated. And I am not scared to express who I am and what I stand for.
Good for you. That's good. And Jonathan, just share with us the kind of impact that social media is having on your generation, particularly amongst your peers at university, because we know that they are the propaganda, the brainwashing, the lies about Israel, and it's become one of those kind of political rallying points like South Africa was a few years ago. Not that you can even compare Israel to South Africa and the apartheid, because that in itself is lies when you see that Israeli Arabs are so integrated within Israeli society. But nevertheless, the issue of the Palestinian cause seems to be such a popular left-wing topic amongst your peer group. So share with us the challenge of that, but also the influence social media has on your generation of students.
Right. I think in our generation, social media and platforms such as Instagram, Twitter are main streams of education, unfortunately. People are not turning to news channels like yourselves. They are turning to the TikTok and Instagram education. So unfortunately, such degrees do not provide education of the true depths of the whole conflict and the atrocities. And like Josh said, working with Jewish people only being 0.2%, you're already working against a battle which is very, very powerful. And like I said earlier, our phone is our biggest ally. It's a weapon and we need to use it smartly.
Absolutely. So let's have a look at this other CBN News report that looks at the rise of Jew hatred on campus, particularly post-October the 7th.
Statistics show that anti-Semitism is as high as it's been since the beginning of the Nazi movement.
It's a major threat for Jewish communities. We see that Jews are afraid to wear the yarmulke or a Magen David and to go out on the street. We have the case of Paul Kessler, a professor who quietly raised an Israeli flag in the streets of LA and was brutally murdered by pro-Palestinian protesters.
Israeli government minister Amichai Chikli handles issues relating to Jews worldwide. He recently shared a report on this dramatic rise and focused on key incidents of 2023, mainly the murder of Jews and Israelis in the U.S., Tunisia, and Egypt, and U.S. university presidents arguing that calls for genocide of the Jews did not violate their code of conduct. Chikli tells CBN News much of this can be traced to universities receiving funding from foreign states like Qatar and organizations promoting terror and jihad.
I think we need to examine what's happening in CARE and other Muslim Brotherhood-related organizations that possess a threat not just for Jews, but also for any other civilian, and especially for the ideology and the values of the Judeo-Christian civilization.
He also echoed cause for alarm within the Palestinian Authority.
Mahmoud Abbas, who says that Hitler exterminated the Jews not because of their religion, but because of the social role and financial business. This is basically Hamas, almost medieval blood labels.
The focus of growth, however, comes back to the United States, which recorded some 45% of worldwide anti-Semitic incidents since October 7th.
So today the U.S. became the center of anti-Semitism. In terms of the cases that we are facing, we know that this is also the largest Jewish community outside of Israel.
The greatest weapon, though, is social media, which reaches across borders.
We've seen an increase of 1,200 anti-Semitic content that calls for violence against Jews. These are not just posts against Jews. These are posts with a specific intent to commit a violent assault.
Chikli says Israel is changing its strategy from defense to offense, including countersuits against Hamas for war crimes, exposing anti-Semitic indoctrination in UNRWA and the Palestinian Authority, such as its pay-to-slay program, which rewards those who murder Jews. and pressuring governments, decision makers, and financiers to freeze or put conditions on aid to the PA, UNRWA, and similar organizations. A key reminder that he emphasizes is that the Hamas attacks on October 7th were not just against Israel.
It's against the Jewish people and also against, I think, the Western civilization. The jihadist, the global jihad agenda is not just related to Jews and it's not just related to Israel. It's the Western civilization as a whole.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
And it's a reminder to us all to pray for our Jewish students at campus and going through our universities with this rise of Jew hatred since October the 7th, but also to reach out to our Jewish community as well to show them love and support during this horrible time, particularly post October the 7th. Joshua, I know that you and Jonathan have been attending these pro-Israel rallies. What's that like for you, being part of those rallies, being amongst other Jewish people, seeing the Israeli flag with the Star of David on it, the blue and white flag being waved, and also being supported by members of the Christian community to make you feel that you're not alone despite the rise of Jew hatred in this country?
Well, yeah, like you said, it gives me hope, and it feels good to stand there with brother, sister to sister, mother to mother, whatever. Everyone together, we're all enforced, and we feel strong together. And that's a beautiful thing to witness. And like I said, it gives you hope, and I'm very glad that we've been attending these activities, because it has educated me and has also shown me how important it is to go out there and support your brothers that are suffering in the land of Israel.
Thanks for your response there, Josh. And Jonathan, share with us how important it is for the Jewish community to have these rallies and gatherings in support of Israel and the Jewish people, but also to raise awareness about the plight of the hostages that are still held by Hamas in Gaza.
Right. I think these rallies give us Jewish people and our supporters an opportunity to show our unwavering support for Israel. Josh and I have attended some rallies on Sundays. We go there with our hostage tags, with our Israel flags, loud and proud, to sell these to everyone in sight, raise awareness, raise funds for the hostages. What I find very interesting about these rallies is politicians, the elderly, the young, everybody shoulder to shoulder in support for Israel. But there's a shocking peacefulness and silence that acts as a stark contrast to the Palestinian rallies. The Palestinian rallies, we've all seen the chants from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. I can assure you there's no such insightful of violence and hatred in our pro-Israel chants. Such a chant like that calls for the genocide, calls for the extermination of Jews within Israel. And it's loud and clear in the Palestinian Charter. It's not just the Israeli blood they're after, it's the Jewish blood. So I think the Christians that have come and shown their support, we are forever grateful for that.
Yeah. And Josh, share with us your thoughts, particularly, your university campus is in central London. Yeah. Just share with us what it's like on a Saturday. Do you avoid the capital when we see these huge pro-Palestinian marches, and are you fearful regarding these?
Well, yes, obviously I wouldn't want to be surrounded by a Palestinian group or that are rallying and all that stuff. Luckily, I don't live in central where my uni is. I live a bit outside. And my surroundings is pretty Jewish. I live in Gold's Green, so... Very Jewish, yeah. Very Jewish, exactly. So thank God Saturday and Friday night is very peaceful and it's very heartwarming, and we get invited all the time for Friday nights, and it's really nice. So thank God, and I pray for the others that don't have this. Thank God I haven't been experiencing any bad or hatred during Saturday and Friday night.
Simon, did you see the video of a certain individual at a pro-Palestinian rally holding up one very clear message? And it was, Hamas is a terrorist organization. Do not fight against the law. one very clear message, what resulted in being the police having to arrest him, which I find ludicrous, with someone stating such a law, someone stating such a fact, how people be giving him such looks, and to then him ending up being arrested.
Yeah, get arrested for telling the truth. Almost feels like something out of George Orwell's book, 1984. Absolutely frightening. I mean, back in October, I was invited to speak on behalf of a pro-Israel ministry called the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem, UK. This was 2 weeks after October the 7th. And it was a Saturday. It was in Westminster, just round the corner from the House of Commons. And literally in the morning I was walking through and I literally saw like 6 mobile police units, and the police had guns. And then as I left about 2 o'clock, walking down Westminster in the midst of this Palestinian hate gathering regarding Israel, the only description I have for it is like, I always wonder what it'd be like to be in Munich in the 1930s. I had the same feeling. That's, you came face to face with evil, you came face to face with hatred, and all of this is not about the plight of the Palestinian cause. This is about hatred of Israel. And if they really cared about the plight of the Palestinians, then why haven't they been protesting outside the kind of Syrian embassy in London for the genocide committed by Bashar al-Assad, or how, for example, Jordan, Egypt, also other nations, Gulf states treat the Palestinian people. In Iraq, they're virtually ethnically cleansed and yet silence. But it's only because they see this conflict as a rallying point in which they can rally behind because of their hatred for Israel and the Jewish people. And this is why any decent people who love peace, who love tolerance, who love respect, who love democracy, need to speak up. Now, Jonathan, you are wearing the very shiny dog tag with Bring Them Home Now. I know that we've had a lot of requests from our viewers wanting to know how they can get hold of them. So share with us how they can get hold of the dog tags that you guys are wearing. I'm wearing mine, I got mine in Israel.
Yes.
Remind us of what it says again, where our viewers can get hold of it, and where the proceeds go.
Yes. So this dog tag, Halev Shelanu Shavui Be'aza, our heart is held hostage in Gaza, bring them home now, with at the back with a Star of David and Beyachad Nenaseach, which translates, together we will win, together we will succeed. And these prophets, Josh and I, we have spoken to the survivors of 710 personally. We've heard first-hand stories, and we felt that it was best if we can channel these prophets, not via any organizations, but straight to these victims of such atrocities. To quote Bibi Netanyahu, he says, total victory against these savages. And we believe that the Christian Brotherhood are partners in that success, are partners in that victory. It's not just Israel's battle, it's the battle of civilization against barbarism. This is a battle that is not just against the future and survival of Israel, but humanity and civilization as we know it.
And now we've got this incredibly moving and very powerful interview done by CBN with one of the family members of those who was taken hostage in Gaza, and this is his harrowing story.
Tell me about Omri.
Omri's a 46 years old man, is an incredible father to my 2 nieces, Roni and Alma, who are 2.5 years old and 9-month-old. Is amazing husband to my sister Lishai, is a family man connected to us since he came into our family, and of course to his father and his siblings. His mother sadly passed away a few years ago. Is a spiritual man connected to nature. Is a shiatsu therapist and a gardener, so he would heal plants during the day and his patients during the evenings in his clinic. Loves literature, loves sports, is exactly the person you want to meet and laugh with. Has a great sense of humor and beautiful smile, has a gentle heart. I think the world misses him. He added a lot to his community in Kibbutz Nachal Oz, added a lot to this world, and I hope he will be free again soon, so he can continue and contribute to it.
Well, thank you for sharing who he is. I think a lot of times in the mix of everything that's happened, there's so much political and social commentary, we don't hear the stories of who the hostages actually are. And so I appreciate you telling us that. Take us through October 7th from your perspective, what you experienced, what you saw. You obviously were in the U.S. here, but just take us through that day for you.
Yeah, for me it was a Friday night. I just arrived at a nightclub in Brooklyn. I live in Manhattan. I went out with friends to a music concert there, and then I started hearing, getting messages that there are rocket attacks on Israel. I grew up in Sderot on the Israel-Gaza border, so I experienced rocket attacks. I normalized them, sadly, and so I didn't really mind that at all. You just check with your family, friends, everyone is fine.
It was normal. It felt like normal.
It felt normal because, to be honest, that was our reality for so many years, and it pains me to say it because I think the fact we tolerated it and allowed our government to tolerate it, October 7th happened. That was one of the reasons. So, but after a few minutes, it was clear this is different because the reports emerged that Hamas terrorists, in their thousands, are invading Israel, invading communities, kibbutzim like Nahal Oz, where my sister Lishai and Omri live, towns like Sderot, my hometown, where my parents live. And I started getting messages from friends, from family, checking on them. I, of course, left the club. It was a weird experience because I just started to have a great time with music, and then you receive this news and you don't know how to cope with it.
What was going through your heart in those moments of, you know, oh my goodness, my parents, my sister, my brother-in-law, the kids?
It was, it's hard to describe. I think it was the worst night in my life. And look, I served for 6 years in the military. I was a captain, so I've had a good share of bad nights. And of course, growing up to terrorism. But that experience was dreadful because you feel helpless. You're so far away. The only way you can communicate is online, on WhatsApp. And you read the news. You see on social media horrific videos of terrorists coming into my hometown, killing people, butchering people. It was terrible. My heart was beating. I was losing sense of time and space. But I after a few minutes, I said I have to get a grip on myself. I took an Uber and left back to my flat and was with my family all night. And around 4:30 a.m. Eastern Time, US, we lost contact with my sister Lishai and Omri. The last thing they did was sending a photo of my two nieces playing with their family dog Mojo. And they said that they're losing their battery on the phone and that electricity is gone, so they can't charge it. That was the last time we heard from them. And only 10 hours later, we found out what happened. My mom received a message that Lishai, my sister, survived, that the two babies survived, but that Omri was taken hostage. I'm grateful my parents were rescued and survived, and both my sisters survived, but Omri was taken. And during those 10 hours, we learned that Hamas terrorists barged into their home. They used a teenage boy from the kibbutz, their neighbor, Tomer, a 15-year-old teenager, to lure him to open the door. So they, of course, opened the door to save his life. Later on that day, Hamas murdered Tomer and most of his family. For hours, they were abused at their home, held at gunpoint. Their house was ransacked, ravaged. They were later grouped with another family, the Idan family, whose daughter Mayan was murdered, 18 years old, in front of her siblings, in front of her parents. Held hostage there for hours. It was live streamed on Facebook, all this ordeal. They took a phone from...
the terrorists live streamed this.
Yeah. They took the phone of one of the family members of the Idan family and live streamed this entire ordeal. We found out later. We have the footage.
Have you seen that footage?
I've seen it. It's I don't think anybody can imagine what we feel when we see it. You see my sister holding Alma, my youngest niece, as gunshots are heard in the background, as rockets are heard in the background, people screaming. They're sitting on the floor, held hostage at gunpoint. It's terrible.
And that very powerful interview is a reminder to us all of the need to pray for the families of the hostages, to pray for the hostages, and also to put pressure on our government and our media, not only to raise awareness regarding their plight, but also to ensure that they come home safely to their families and loved ones in Israel. Josh, just share with us how exciting it is to be making a difference for Israel and the Jewish people by being involved in selling these dog tags, knowing that this goes directly to the families that need them, because for them, they've given up their jobs, they're touring around the world, they're raising awareness regarding the plight of their family members that are being held prisoner by the genocidal terrorist organization that is Hamas.
Well, obviously, like I said before, I can't imagine what those families are going through, and the least we could do, really the least we could do, is to spread awareness and wear these tags with pride and not be scared of where we come from, what we stand for as a community as a whole.
And Jonathan, you guys are proud Zionists. You're proud to be Jewish. You're proud of your Jewish identity, but also your Jewish faith, and also the need to support the only Jewish state in the world, which is the nation of Israel. Just share with us what the Hatikva, the Israeli national anthem called The Hope, means to you.
For sure. I think now more than ever, we'd like to pride ourselves of a people full of hope. Like I said, October 8th, we were a country that went through a series of emotional stages of shock, of despair, of trauma, but very soon after of hope and unity. And Hatikva, I think, resonates louder than ever for all our Jewish people. And like I said, 5 months, 134 hostages, and until every hostage is not back home, we are wearing these tags loud and proud.
Excellent. Josh and Jonathan, thank you so much for being my youngest guests on the Middle East Report. You've done your generation proud. I think you've done your families proud, and you've done your community proud, but also, most of all, you've done Israel and also the family of the hostages proud as well. So thank you so much for being my guests on the Middle East Report today.
Thank you, Simon.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure. And I want to thank you for watching this program at home. It can't be easy being a Jewish student on campus. This is why they need our support. That's why they need our prayers. And if you are a Christian on campus, why don't you befriend our Jewish friends by showing them and standing with them, by telling them they're not alone. And it's also important to remind ourselves to pray for the hostages, that they would return safely, but also to buy one of these dog tags, bring them home as a reminder, so that we can pray, we can raise awareness regarding our parliamentarians, but also our media about their plight, because their families need them home. Israel needs them home. So let's pray for them and support them. And going to leave the Middle East Report with the beautiful Israeli national anthem known as Hatikva, and this is sung by Helena Vince to mark Israel's 70th anniversary as a modern state born in fulfillment of biblical prophecy. So thank you for watching this week's edition of the Middle East Report.